All right. Good morning, everyone. So, are there any questions or concerns pertaining to anything we have discussed so far regarding
So will there
matchings?
be class tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, sir, I had just a question regarding the definition of barrier. So, barrier is the set
Mhm.
for which it attains the minimum, right? That's alpha prime g.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. So it's a set for which this equation holds.
Equation holds. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And we'll prove that such a set exists actually
Right. We will prove that such a set exists in any graph.
in any graph. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So, are there any other questions or concerns regarding the matchings in general graphs? Okay, so what have we done so far? We assume the Tut-Burge theorem, right? And from the Tut-Burge theorem, you immediately get the Tut-Burge formula, and you also get Tut's perfect matching theorem, also known as Tut's one-factor theorem, right? And we used Tut's one-factor theorem to prove Peterson's theorem, which is that every cubic graph without cut edges is matchable. Okay. So that's basically everything we have done so far. And we need to still prove the main theorem, which is the Tut-Berge theorem, which states that every graph has a barrier. Okay. So we might not prove that today. I mean, we might not complete the proof today, but we will see one of the most important parts of that proof today. Okay. So, to prove this, we will be using induction on the number of vertices. Right? And how would we do that? So let's recall the definition of a barrier that we just did. So a barrier S of maybe a barrier of a graph G is a set S such that the following equation holds. Right? So the size of the maximum matching is exactly equal to half times the number of vertices minus this quantity. Right? This quantity is the number of exposed vertices in any matching, and for a barrier, this will be exactly equal. Right? So, okay, good. So, if we want to prove this by induction on the number of vertices, so well, since this is a statement for all graphs, you can just delete a vertex, right? And you will get a smaller graph, right? Um, but the problem is what happens to the left hand side when you delete one vertex. So let's start with that question. So the question I want to ask is the following. For a graph G and vertex V, how are alpha prime G and alpha prime G minus V related? So what is the change you can expect in the matching number when you delete a vertex?
So, if the maximum matching in G
Hmm.
does not saturate V,
Hmm.
then we can definitely say that alpha prime G is equal to alpha prime G minus V.
Sure, but just to be clear, you said the maximum matching. You mean there is some maximum matching,
Yeah, I mean, if
right?
some maximum matching in alpha prime G
Right, right,
does
exactly.
not saturate V, I mean,
Hmm.
it
Yeah, I get
means,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, mean maximum matching may not be unique, but if there exists a one, that does not saturate V, then alpha prime G is same as alpha prime G minus V.
Okay, so let me just put that down. So one possibility is for this quantity to remain the same as before. Okay, somebody else, what is the other possibility? Right, so this happens if and only if there exists a maximum matching in G that does not saturate vertex V. Okay?
So,
What is
sir,
the other? No, I want somebody else to reply. What is the other possibility? So if it does not remain the same, would it increase? Would it decrease? Can it decrease by 10?
Reduces by at most 1.
Decreases by exactly 1 in that case, right? So the only other possibility is it reduces by 1. And when does this happen? So this is the case when this statement that I have written down does not happen. So what is the negation of this?
All matchings contain V.
All maximum matchings match the vertex V or saturate the vertex V. Each maximum matching of the graph G saturates the vertex V. Right? Right? By deleting one vertex, the matching number can only go down by 1 or remain the same. Right? If every maximum matching contains or matches that vertex, then clearly all your maximum matchings will lose one edge when you delete this vertex. And so the new maximum matchings will be smaller than the original maximum matching. Right? Is everybody convinced? Okay. So that gives us a partition of the vertex set. Right? So now we can partition the vertex set of the graph G for any arbitrary graph G in this way. Right? So these vertices, we will call them inessential vertices because their removal does not affect the matching number. These are the inessential vertices, and of course we will call these essential vertices. Okay? An essential vertex is used in every single maximum matching, is saturated in every single maximum matching. So when you remove it, your matching number goes down. Okay? So these are the definitions. Okay? So each vertex is either essential or inessential, and this is how they are defined.
sir, I have a question. So, can
Yeah.
it happen that in a graph, no vertex is an essential vertex?
No vertex is essential. Okay, we will come to that. Right. We will come to that in a few minutes. Let's first ask the easier. So no vertex is essential. So every vertex is inessential. Let me ask the easier question first. So you have asked a particular question.
So yeah, I
Let's
think that should be possible.
yeah. Let's first take up the other question, which is easier. So can it happen that every vertex is essential? Can
Perfect
every
matchings.
vertex
In a
right?
complete graph, it can happen. Complete graph on even
Not,
number.
not just complete graph, but what was the other answer there?
Perfect
Perfect match.
matchings.
Any graph with a perfect matching has this property. Can every vertex be essential? Right? What does it mean? Every vertex being essential means that each matching saturates every single vertex. Well, that just means that each maximum matching, I meant, is a perfect matching. Yes. Right. So observation is that each vertex is essential. Sorry. each vertex is essential if and only if the graph has a perfect matching. I'm calling them matchable graphs. Right? So matchable just means it has a perfect matching. Okay.
But sir, I have a question. So regarding this implication that each vertex is essential if and only if this. So each vertex is essential by we mean there exists a matching. So for a given vertex V, there exists a matching that depends on the vertex that saturates V, and that matching is maximum matching. Okay. But how then can you say that the G has a perfect matching?
You tell me.
No, means what I am saying is that suppose
Read the definition again. It's not that exists a matching. It's actually saying that every single maximum matching will have to saturate this vertex.
each maximum matching of saturates. Okay.
Right? The point is the negation of this statement that you had told is exactly this one.
Yeah. That I know. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you apply this one, it just tells you that each maximum matching saturates every single vertex because every single vertex is essential.
So can you just go to the statement below, if and only part? Okay, I got it. Yeah, because if we take any maximum matching, then that will be perfect matching.
Exactly. Right? Okay.
And for perfect matching, it is trivial. Means if G has a perfect matching, then every vertex will be essential.
Yeah. Okay. So this question is easy to answer. This question is relatively easy to answer. Just an observation. So now let's ask the more difficult question, which I think Ananya had raised earlier. So the
But
next question is,
I still have a question. So if we are given that every vertex is inessential, then we cannot say that G is matchable.
well, that is true by this observation, right? If G is matchable, every vertex is essential. So every vertex cannot be inessential.
No, but I am saying the converse. So if every vertex is inessential, then can you say that G is matchable? G has a perfect matching.
No, but the above statement is both directions. So how can you say that? Right? If a vertex is essential, it cannot be inessential and vice versa. Right?
Okay, yeah, I got
Right?
it.
So the above statement is if and only if.
If and only if, okay, yeah.
Right?
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So the next question is, can every vertex be inessential?
Odd cycle.
Odd cycles. Did you say that? Or did
Yes,
I
yes,
hear
yes.
that? Okay, good.
Yes.
Yes, the answer is yes. And one example is
I
odd
think another
cycles.
example will be complete graph on odd number of vertices.
Well, that is true. But another point to make is that if you have a graph with this property, then you can keep adding edges to it. If you keep adding edges to a graph in which every vertex is inessential, then the property that every vertex is inessential will be retained. So that's why if you take an odd cycle and keep adding edges and make a complete graph, it will still be true. So yeah, you're right. So it also includes complete graphs. In fact, let me put the following. You take any Hamiltonian graph on odd number of vertices.
Yeah, means we can take the matching as the edges of the cycle, Hamiltonian cycle.
Right, right. Yeah. For every vertex, you delete that vertex and you will get a perfect matching on the remaining graph. Right? Which will be a maximum matching in the original graph. Right? Good. So, but that is not a characterization. You can also have other graphs with this property. For example, I can take a triangle and I can add another triangle to it like this. And I believe this graph also has the property, right?
Yes. Means every vertex is inessential here.
Yeah. Okay. So there are more examples.
So what is the characterization?
Right. So I'm about to come to that.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So clearly we have some examples, but we don't have a characterization. Whereas in the previous case, we had a characterization. Okay. So turns out we do have a characterization. And that brings us to one more definition. So these are going to be called hypomatchable graphs. Okay. So a graph G is hypomatchable if G minus V has a perfect matching, or let me say G minus V is matchable for each vertex of the graph, right? I don't want the empty graph without any vertices edges to be hypomatchable. So let me say a graph G with at least one vertex. Okay. So notice that the examples we have discussed so far, they are actually hypomatchable. And in fact, from the definition, you can easily see that in a hypomatchable graph, every single vertex is actually inessential. It just follows from the definition. So
Yeah, but sir, does the converse hold? Means if every
we will,
vertex.
yeah, we will prove that.
Okay.
So in a hypomatchable graph,
Still, that is very clear from the definition of hypermatchable. Means
yeah,
in
that is
hypermatchable, every vertex will be inessential.
yeah, each vertex is inessential. Yeah, that's why I'm calling it an observation. It
But
just
what?
follows from the
Okay.
definition.
But what about the converse?
Yeah, I said we will prove it.
Okay.
You need to be slightly more patient. Okay. Okay. So, so that is true, right? We will prove that the converse is also almost true. The only thing is you need to include that the graph is connected. In fact, the following is an easy exercise. Each vertex of a graph is inessential if and only if each component has the same property, right? So in the graph, each vertex is an essential if and only for each component, each vertex of that component is an essential with respect to that component. Right? So in other words, we can focus on the connected graphs, right? So what we'll prove is that for a connected graph, if each vertex is inessential, then it has to be a hypomatchable graph. Okay? And that will turn out to be useful in our proof by induction. Okay, but it's also quite interesting in its own right. So that's why I don't want to make it part of the proof, but I want to actually focus on hypomatchable graphs. And hypomatchable graphs actually play a very important role in matching theory. They are also known as factor critical graphs. Okay. All right. So yeah. So here is the main lemma we will prove today. 16.10. So take a connected graph, each of whose vertices is inessential. Every single vertex is inessential. So we'll prove that in this case, the graph has to be hypomatchable. Okay. All right. So what will happen in our main proof of the Tut-Berge theorem is right. So when the graph does not have any, yeah. So if every vertex is inessential, right? So in that case, we will just prove it. That will be our base case. If every vertex is inessential, right? Otherwise, we will have some vertex that is essential, right? And when we have a vertex that is essential, that will be our induction step. So we will delete that vertex, and then we will relate. We will show that a barrier in the smaller graph can become a barrier in the bigger graph by just including that deleted vertex. It requires a small lemma, right? So that will be the induction step. And what we are currently doing is we are focusing on the hypomatchable graphs. Showing that a hypomatchable graph as a barrier is easy. We will talk about that in a few minutes. It's very straightforward. Okay. So this is basically the base case of our Tut-Berge theorem. That's the main point of this lemma. So hypermatchable graphs are the base case. Okay. But anyways, let's focus on this lemma right now, which is already quite interesting. All right. So we know that every single vertex is inessential. That already implies that the graph is not matchable, right? Because in a matchable graph, every vertex is actually essential. So clearly, G is not matchable. Okay. Now, supposing there is a maximum matching which leaves exactly one vertex exposed, then I claim that we are done. Suppose there exists.
First point is not clear to me. Why G is not matchable?
You tell me, based on what we have discussed. You know that every vertex is inessential in this graph G.
Okay, so if G is matchable, then you know that G has a perfect matching. So basically, that means any maximum matching of G is a perfect matching. So that means any vertex, it means every so and you know not in G every vertex is inessential.
Right.
So that cannot be the case.
Right. We already discussed that a graph is matchable if and only if every vertex is essential. Right?
Okay. Okay, yes.
Okay. So here we have a connected graph where each vertex is inessential. So clearly the graph is not matchable. Okay. Now supposing there is a maximum matching n such that exactly one vertex is m exposed. Then I claim that the proof is actually finished. Does anybody see why?
Yes, this is because if exactly one vertex in X is M exposed, that means okay. So that means so first of all, then G has odd number of vertices, and we have to show that G is hypomatchable. That means if we delete any vertex from G, so G minus B will be matchable. But we know that since there is a maximum matching for which there is exactly one M exposed vertex, That means that maximum matching. So let the M exposed vertex be V. So that maximum matching M will saturate G minus V. All the vertices of G minus V. So that's why G is hypomatchable.
So that's not the definition. You need to show for every single vertex it is in essential. No, for every single vertex there is a perfect matching after deleting that vertex.
Sir,
Yeah.
That we can do. That we can do because we
No,
know
can
that.
we maybe Krishnan can say, yeah.
sir. What this thing gives us the information of the size of the maximum matching that we
Right.
get.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
So this would give us that the total. Let's say the matching has some m edges. Say the total number of vertices should be 2m plus 1.
Hmm.
So take any other vertex. Take any vertex. Remove that vertex.
Hmm.
Right now, the size of the now there once
Sir, actually, I have
What
got the
is the
argument.
assumption you are using? What is the main assumption you are using
ah
to get to the
ah
conclusion?
sorry every vertex is in essential.
Exactly. Every vertex
uh,
is in
every
essential.
vertex is in
So
essential.
for any arbitrary vertex you choose, you will get a maximum matching of the
So
same size as M, right?
take a matching that does not have this vertex and it
Right.
should be of the size
Right.
2m and
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So basically, in this case, we are just done. Okay. So the graph is not matchable. You cannot even have a maximum matching which leaves one vertex M exposed because otherwise the proof is complete. So now suppose that there is a match, so which means that for each matching
So basically, here
M,
you're using the fact that every vertex in G is inessential in the done
right,
part.
right,
Done part. Okay.
exactly. For each matching M, at least two vertices are M exposed. Right? So now suppose, so this is really an assumption.
Sir, I think I have a counter example to this. Can I present it?
Okay,
So you draw a square
okay,
and any one vertex you draw one edge outside.
any one vertex, you draw an edge outside.
So the vertex outside, if
Hmm.
that is removed, we have a maximum matching.
Mm-hmm.
So a maximum matching which saturates the vertex that is outside.
Let me call them 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now tell
Okay,
me.
yeah. So if you remove zero, no, there is a matching which saturates zero. We saturate everything except zero.
Okay.
But if this graph is not hypomatchable because if you remove 3,
Hmm.
then the resulting graph is not matchable.
Okay, let's see. So you're saying that this is a connected graph. Each vertex is inessential, but it is not
Oh, okay, okay.
hypomatching.
Inessential is there. So 3 is not inessential. Okay, okay, got it. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so it's not a counter example. All right. Right, so now we are assuming that for every single matching, at least two vertices are M exposed. Okay. All right. So
Basically, sir, I just want to clarify one thing.
hmm,
So basically, this statement that for all matching M, at least two vertices are M exposed. To it is equivalent to saying that for the maximum matching M, at least two vertices are M exposed.
yeah, 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 exactly. It is equivalent. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's right. Okay. So we will actually show the following. So we will contradict this, right? Basically, we want a contradiction, right? We will show the following. if you take any maximum matching and you take any two arbitrary vertices, then the matching M will saturate at least one of X and Y.
That means maximum for a maximum matching M, it cannot have at least two vertices exposed.
Exactly.
It can have only at most one vertex exposed.
Exactly, right? So this will imply that for any maximum matching, only one vertex is M exposed. And that basically takes us to the case we have already done. And then the proof is finished. Right? So this is what we will show.
Right, this is easy, like, because like if exposed vertices cannot have neighbors that are exposed as well. Otherwise, you could join them and you could extend the matching.
Right. Good.
Otherwise, since the graph is connected, you could consider their neighbors, which are part of the matching, and consider the path between them, and you can get an M alternating path.
Okay, so you're basically saying what the proof is looks like?
Yes. So you consider neighbor of X and neighbor of Y, and there will be a path between them. I mean, there will be an alternating path between them, because both are part of the matching.
Okay.
And then you append X and Y, you can get an M augmenting path, right? And you can extend the matching.
I see. Okay, so I don't see the whole proof right now.
But how will you get a M alternating path between X and Y?
Not between X and Y, between
If
neighbor
there
of
is
X
an
and
M
neighbor of Y.
alternating path between X to Y, then we'll get an augmenting path.
Yeah, that is true. But my question is, how will you get an alternating path?
Right. So the graph is connected, right? And
Yes.
right. So there will be an alternating path between any two saturated vertices, right?
Why?
But how?
I mean, there will be a path between any two vertices, but why should there be an alternating path between any two vertices?
Yeah, exactly. That's my question. How?
Anyway,
why
so
is
there
there
might
alternating
be
path? Yeah.
Okay.
so there might be a ways to complete it. So think about it. The proof we are going to do is similar to what you're saying, but it has more details. In particular, you can think of the proof in two ways. Either we are going to do induction on the distance between X and Y, but I'm going to present it slightly differently. I'm going to choose X and Y with minimum distance between them. Okay. And one of the observations that you said is that they cannot be adjacent vertices because this is a maximum matching. So the distance between them has to be at least 2. Do you agree?
Yes.
So you mean distance between X and Y?
Yeah. So suppose this is not true. Suppose not. What I'm saying is, let us choose M, X, and Y such that the distance between X and Y in the graph G is minimum among all such choices. Okay? There is a different way to think about these proofs, which is induction on the distance. But I want to present it differently in this particular case. Okay, so among all the possible M, X, and Y, we are going to choose such that the distance between the two vertices is minimum in the graph. Okay? So we are looking at...
I have a question here. So here M saturates both X and Y, right? So sorry. M does not saturate both X and Y.
Does not saturate, yeah. M,
Okay, so
both
XY
X and
cannot
Y
be
are
adjacent.
M exposed. Yeah.
So basically XY cannot be adjacent.
Right. Both X and Y are M exposed. And because this is a maximum matching, they cannot be adjacent because then you will just add that edge and make a bigger matching.
Okay. So basically this minimum value of distance should be at least 2.
Right. Since M is a maximum matching, the distance in the graph G between x and y is at least 2. Okay. So let us consider the shortest path between x and y. Okay. So let's say P is a shortest path between x and y in the graph G. Okay, this is not an alternating path or anything, it's just a path in the graph, right? But I claim that all the internal vertices of this path will have to be M saturated. Does anybody see why?
Yes,
Otherwise, we get a
because
shortened path.
Yeah, Kapil?
Otherwise, we'll get more nearer XY vertices.
Right, okay. Ananya?
so one justification is we know that x is M exposed. So if the vertex, so let the vertexes of the path be x, x1, x2 up to xk, then y. So we know that x is M exposed to. So if x1 is also M exposed, that means we can add the edge x x1 to M.
Yeah, but that's way more complicated, right? I mean, the point is if there is any M exposed vertex here, then X and V, MX and V contradicts your choice of MX and Y.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
that's just from the choice of.
Yeah, just from the choice. Yeah.
Yeah,
That we can say.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just from choice of M, X, and Y. Right? All these vertices, they have to be M saturated. So now let's pick any vertex. Because we know the distance is at least 2, there is definitely going to be some vertex which is an internal vertex. Right? So let V be any internal vertex. Let V be a vertex of the path that is not X and not Y. Okay. All right, we want to use our hypothesis.
Sir, I
Each
have a question.
vertex,
Sir, I
yeah.
have a question. So the claim which you just made is not clear to me. Can you explain it once again? I mean, why all the internal vertices of P should be M saturated?
Okay. You said that it was from the choice of mx and y, right?
No, but
If there is
my
a vertex which is not saturated,
okay.
then let's say v, then
Okay.
m, x, and v, they contradict the choice of m, x, and y because the distance between x and v is clearly lesser than the distance between x and y.
No, but okay. So we took a okay. So for a basically for a given matching M, we are choosing X and Y such that this distance is minimum among all such
I
choices.
am choosing m, x, and y for all such choices, right? So what is the statement we are trying to show? We are trying to show this statement. Right? Supposing this statement is not true. So there are maximum matchings and vertices x and y such that both x and y are m exposed with respect to that matching.
Okay,
Right?
got
So
it.
among all such choices, I'm choosing one so that the distance between x and y is minimum. Right?
Yeah, means actually I found the claim to be true, but with a different argument. Means I use the fact that M is a maximum matching, and then argued that each of the vertex will be an M
Okay,
saturated.
you can post your argument on Piazza and we can go through it later. Yeah. Okay. So, right. So let's take a vertex which is an internal vertex of this path. Right. So this vertex in particular is M saturated because we just discussed that. So in particular, V is M saturated. Right? We know that every vertex of this graph is inessential, right? That's the main hypothesis. So in particular, V is inessential. So that means that there is a maximum matching that misses the vertex V, that for which V is unsaturated. Since V is inessential, there exists a maximum matching M prime such that V is M prime exposed. Okay. Let me just call this N. Why use N prime when you can use N? Okay. So what can you say about X and Y with respect to N? Are they covered or exposed? I want you to use the choice of M, X, and Y to claim something.
They cannot be exposed.
They cannot be exposed because otherwise, again, you will contradict the choice of M, X, and Y.
Yes,
You would
yes.
choose N, X, and V, for example. Right? Both of them are N covered or N saturated. Otherwise, we contradict the choice of M, X, and Y because you would choose the matching N and then you would choose one of X and Y which is exposed, and the vertex V is also exposed with respect to N. And the distance between X and V or Y and V is lesser than distance between X and Y. Okay, good. So now let's use some colors and make things a bit prettier, right? So let's say M is the matching red, and let's say N is the green matching.
Yes, sir. Then if we take the symmetric difference of M and N, then we get an augmenting path from X to Y.
Do we get an augmenting path from X to Y? We can't get an augmenting path because
not yet.
matchings are maximum, right? But yeah, we are going to take the symmetric difference because that is what we do, right? So let's see. So at X and Y.
So, sir, I have a question regarding the last claim which you made. So, can you go to the last statement?
Yeah, let me just color these things here. I'll go to the last statement. So X and Y are M exposed. So I'll put a red dot suggesting that these are exposed vertices with respect to the red color. Okay, and V is saturated. In fact, all vertices here are saturated, but we don't care about the other vertices. We just care about V. And with respect to the green matching, X and Y have to be covered, but V is going to be exposed. Okay. So now let's go to the last statement. Yeah.
Yeah. So here I had a question. So we are saying that both X and Y, they are unsaturated. So if X is N exposed, say, then we can say that NXB contradict the choice of MXY, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And if Y is N exposed,
Yeah,
then
it's symmetric
NBY.
without loss of generality.
NBY
Yes.
contradicts NXY. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So that's why both must be unsaturated. Okay. Got it. Fine.
Okay. So we have something like this. We have a red matching. We have a green matching. Both of these are maximum matchings. And we can look at their symmetric difference, right? And the circle indicates that there is no edge of that color at that vertex. Okay. So now let's consider the symmetric difference. So let H be the graph, the spanning subgraph formed by the edges in the symmetric difference of M and N. Okay. Okay, so what are the components of H? Well, they have to be alternating paths and cycles. M, N alternating paths and cycles, right? This we have done forever. Because these are maximum matchings, these paths cannot be of odd length, because if it is a path of odd length, for one of the two matchings, it will be an augmenting path. And then you can get a bigger matching. Okay? So the paths have to be of even length, and cycles are of course of even length. So we will get alternating even paths and cycles. No odd paths.
So these, because both M and N, they are maximum matching. So that's why we are getting even length paths.
Exactly. Since M and N are maximum matchings. Okay? Good. So which means if a path starts at a red edge, it has to end at a green edge. Right? In particular, the vertices x and y cannot belong to the same path. Because if a path contains both x and y, then that path will start at a green edge and end at a green edge. All of these are degree 1 vertices, x, v, and y, because they have one of the two edges but not the other edge. Okay? So because all the paths are even length, x and y do not belong to the same m, or maybe let's say same path in the graph H. Okay? So now, which means now I can find a path that contains one of x and y but does not contain the vertex v. This implies that there exists a path q such that q contains one of x and y but does not contain the vertex v. Why? Supposing the path starting at x ends at the vertex v. Well, then I will take the path containing the vertex y. Okay? So let us suppose that this one of x and y, assume without loss of generality that it is the vertex x. Okay? I can relabel them. So there is a path q in my graph H. It starts at x and it's going to be even length, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it ends at some vertex z, but z is not v. Right? Z is equal to v. In fact, z is not even equal to y. Right? So what does this path look like? It's starting at x. So that is going to be a green colored edge. Okay, so we start at a green colored edge and we end at a red colored edge. Okay, and what are the exposed vertices? X is exposed with respect to the red maximum matching, and this vertex Z is going to be exposed with respect to the green one. Okay, and the vertices right. So what I want to do now is I want to get a maximum matching which will expose the vertex X, and the vertices V and Y will be unaffected. Okay. In particular, X and V will both be exposed, and that will contradict our choice. So how do I do that? How do I get a maximum matching that will expose the vertex X and it will also keep the vertex V exposed? So let's call this M star.
Just switch colors on this path.
On this path. And which matching should I choose? The red or the green to switch colors?
Red.
The red one. So you want to take the M and you want to take the symmetric difference of Q. Right? Notice that in M, the vertex V was actually okay, so what happens here? So I want the vertex V to be exposed. So maybe I'm going to choose the green matching. I'm going to choose the green matching because with respect to the green one, the vertex V is not going to be affected. It was exposed previously and it is still going to be exposed because I did not make any changes at the vertex V. But now my vertex X is also exposed because I'm switching on this path. So previously it was covered by a green edge, but now it is going to be exposed with respect to this new matching. Right? Observe that both X and V are M star exposed. Right? And this is again a maximum matching because I'm just switching on an even path. So the new matching has the same size as the previous matching. Right? Note that M star, the cardinality is exactly equal to the cardinality of M or the cardinality of N, which is the same as M. So M star is a maximum matching. And the two vertices X and V are exposed. And so M star, X and V, they contradict our choice of M, X and Y. Okay. And that's it. We have a contradiction to the choice, and that basically means that you cannot make such a choice. In other words, this claim is true.
But sir, I have a question. So can you go to the last line?
Yeah.
So where you define the matching to the, yeah. So here you have written an observed, means why X and V will be both M star exposed. It isn't clear to me.
Okay, let's look at this. What are we doing? How are we obtaining M star from the matching N? N is the green matching. Remember, this is green.
Okay.
So I want you to think about it. What are we doing? We are doing something to the green matching to get a new matching. Okay, let us call this the blue matching. So what is the difference between blue and green?
So is Q and M an alternating path?
Yeah.
Okay.
Q is this path.
Q is path. So basically Q is a component of G of.
It is a component of H. Yeah.
Is a component of H. Q is a component of H. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I'll make it even clearer. This is a component of H.
Yeah, means I basically mean that it is a subgraph of some component. It is not so.
No, it is a component.
It is a component.
Those two are degree 1 vertices, so it has to be one component.
Component.
You cannot
Okay.
make it bigger. Yeah. Right? Are you convinced that X and V are exposed?
Yes, I got it, sir.
Okay. Good.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Good. All right. So that's it. So we have a contradiction, and that proves the lemma that we are trying to prove. Right? So in other words, the only connected graphs where every vertex is inessential are hypomatchable graphs. Okay. And that's all for today. I think I've gone 10 minutes over the lecture time. Sorry about that. I'll try to keep tomorrow's a bit shorter. Okay. All right, I might put some exercises, do it yourself and try it yourself regarding hypomatchable, or I think I already put them in the previous lecture. If I have any others, I'll put them.
Okay, so when will you give assignment 5, the last one?
Coming Friday or Saturday.
Coming Friday or Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll stop recording now since we are already at 1 hour. But I'm here for another 5-10 minutes to answer any questions.